What you think is saving you money is really costing you money. We see homeowners every day make this one mistake when it comes to flood insurance premiums, and that is your deductible. You see, for years, marketing companies have been saying, hey, raise your deductible, save hundreds on insurance premiums. But is it really the truth? Well, in this video today, I'm going to be talking about that myth and what you can really do to save on flood insurance premiums. Before we do, make sure to share, subscribe, and like the channel below. Hi, I'm Chris with the Flood Insurance Carrier. More than a decade ago, I bought a house in a flood zone just like this right here. And I almost lost my house because of flood insurance premiums. That's why I've been helping homeowners like yourself for the last decade avoid these high premiums. But you see, we've got to talk about a myth when it comes to deductibles. You see, flood insurance premiums in Alabama are skyrocketing in some areas since Risk Rated 2.0 came out. On average, about 76 policyholders in Alabama have had some kind of increase. Like that may be a $10 increase, that may be a $20 increase. Even private flood insurance companies are increasing these rates. So the first thing you probably think about as a homeowner is raising your deductible. But what if I told you that it really is only going to save you $5 a month? We surveyed more than 1,000 policyholders in the state of Alabama. And what we found out on deductibles is going to shock you. That is that on average, across all of our customers that we quoted and we helped flood insurance with in Alabama, on average, going from a $1,000 deductible to a $5,000 deductible saved them less than $5 a month. That's about $60 a year. Even the National Flood Insurance Program kind of caps out these increases at about 2.5% per $1,000. So I want you to think about this for a second. Say we're going from a $1,000 deductible to a $5,000 deductible and we're saving $60. How long is it going to take you to make up the difference if you had to file a claim and pay that deductible? Now remember though, we've got a building deductible and we've got a contents deductible. So really, we could have a $10,000 deductible simply to save $60 a year. Do you know what that answer is? Almost 100 years. And that's if you don't file a single claim for 100 years. This is the break-even point. Crazy, isn't it? So what about if you go from a $5,000 to a $10,000? Once again, still about 2.5% on average is what we see. You know, we may see someone save maybe $100 a year if they're lucky, maybe a couple $100 a year on a private policy. But they really take on now $20,000 in deductibles because of contents coverage and building. And they're never going to get that savings. They're never going to break even on this. But it's because of the marketing world and how they say, hey, raise your deductible. It'll save you on your auto and your home insurance premiums, that we assume as Alabama homeowners, it's going to do the same thing on flood. But this simply isn't the case in most situations. So then if your deductible is not really going to save you money, what is going to save you money on your Alabama flood insurance? Well, I'm glad you asked. And I'm going to talk about that real quick. Well, having an elevation certificate potentially, showing that your home is above the base flood elevation, could significantly save you premiums. In fact, it changed my own flood zone more than a decade ago, and I've been helping homeowners like yourself change their flood zones for that period of time as well. It could still save you premiums the higher your elevation is here. Now look, once this house is already built like this, like on a slab, I can't control the foundation type, but foundation types do have a big impact on flood insurance rates. You know, we see it from helping thousands of property owners in Alabama that someone with a basement, a walkout basement, or a slab all pay different premiums based on foundation type because the risk is different. So that's elevation and how elevation has a big impact. Now let's talk about maybe being part of your community rating system. Look, each community is either part of or not part of the CRS. This is where they go above and beyond with the National Flood Insurance Program policy. Meaning your community may have different discounts than another community because they're doing different things to mitigate the property. You want to check with your community to see what that discount is. This is one way you potentially could save more money on your National Flood Insurance Program policy. Then, making sure that you have the right replacement cost on your property. Using a replacement cost estimator with your flood insurance agent. By making sure that's accurate, you're not going to be overpaying for flood insurance. One of the other areas that you significantly can save on premium is making sure you have the right contents coverage. Look, not everybody needs $100,000 in contents coverage. Not everybody needs 50% of their building coverage to be personal property. You want to have a conversation and understand how much coverage do you actually have in these areas? How much coverage do you need? Because on average, we see this impact rate about 30 to 40%. Now let's talk about mitigation. Look, there's not a lot you could probably do on mitigation other than maybe putting in flood vents and things like this. And this is really going to help more with flood risk than it is flood insurance premiums now. One area that could significantly help you though on your flood insurance premiums is going to be looking at the private market. But you can't just look at the private market. You've got to understand the different options. You need to be working with an insurance agent to get 2 or 3 different private flood insurance options. You need to be looking at those private flood insurance options, understanding what is your flood risk score. You can check your flood risk score out at the bottom of this video. This is going to tell you really what could happen to your premiums long term. Because remember, the National Flood Insurance Program no longer uses flood zones to determine rates. They use things like distance to water, the type of building, flooding frequency, elevation, all these different things that make up your rates. So you want to understand that when you're working with that flood insurance agent. So this is how you can actually impact your flood insurance premiums in Alabama. You're ready to take the next steps. Lowering those flood insurance premiums, getting the right coverage, and knowing your real risk is 3 simple steps. Step 1, fill out the form on our website. Step 2, connect with one of our flood risk advisors or myself. And step 3, finalize your policy. That's it, to having the right protection in Alabama. I'm Chris with the Flood Insurance Guru, and I want to say thank you for watching today's video. And I'll see you in the next video. Remember, everybody's in the flood zone.